What is up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Meet the Bytes. This is episode number 4, and I want to welcome all of you to the show. Today, in this episode, I have a special guest who is also an engineer here at Airbyte, and her name is Teal Larson. Teal, seriously, I want to thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So, you know what? Rather than be introducing you, Teal, can you introduce yourself? Like, who are you? What do you do here at Airbyte?
Yeah, so I'm Teal Larson. I'm a software engineer on our front-end team. So we handle all of the UI for our web application. I joined in April with the team that came on from the acquihire from Group. Been doing data engineering type things for a while.
How has that been for you I'm really curious because as a front-end, were you primarily front-end developer prior to Airbyte, or were you full stack? Because this is a data engineering company, right? So like you also have to understand data engineering things, et cetera, as well. Like what did you do before Airbyte?
Yeah, so at Group, we were a really small team. Like I think team member number 5. So we were all full stack engineers at that point. We had a really small team and all pitched in to do everything. So I've had a good mix of front end and back end there. And then previous to that, I'd done some freelance work that was more front end based. So that's how I ended up on our front end team here.
And that's actually pretty amazing because when I was looking on your LinkedIn, I stalked you a little bit. Prior to anything tech related, it looks like you were a student teacher, and then you ended up becoming, I believe, a full-time language arts teacher.
Yeah, I was.
That is amazing.
Language arts teacher and a middle school reading specialist.
So, obviously I'm going to bring this question up. So, that was my dream too. I wanted to be a history teacher because I wanted to do everything my brother did. He wanted to do history to be a teacher, and then he ended up not doing it. Same with me. But I wanted to be a teacher myself, and I realized, okay, it might not pay as well and it'll be harder to take care of a family in the future. So I decided to not go that route. So how did that happen though? From a language arts teacher to now working in tech as a front-end engineer. How does that happen? What happened?
So yeah, there were a few kind of steps along the way. I ended up leaving the classroom in 2018 for a number of reasons. I had a family, and so there's a lot that goes on beyond just interacting with the kids in the classroom. If it was just hanging out with middle schoolers all day, I totally would have done it. They're great. And it was fun to do something that had an impact, but there's a lot of other factors that go on in teaching that kind of pushed me out the door there. And I kind of tried on a few different, mini careers after that. I was a birth doula briefly. I was a tiki bar server briefly. But during that time, I'd also started I started making websites for friends that had small businesses and kind of helping them with their SEO.
So just for fun.
Yeah, I coded growing up. My dad was a software engineer, so he helped me build my first project when I was in elementary school, to solve math problems and things. So yeah, so I did it for a hobby, and then it was a useful skill I could use to help my friends. And when the pandemic hit, it's all right, well, serving's out. It was great. I love talking to people. But, I needed a more solid career option. And I'd been doing all this work on websites and wanted to kind of take that to the next level. And tech's a great industry to be in. And so I did the boot camp thing to really solidify some skills and launched into the world of web development and software engineering.
That's amazing though. It's not easy becoming a teacher in the first place, getting a job and going to school, getting the job. And then, so my fiance, she's a teacher. She teaches at the college, and she taught at high school. And I did not realize how much of the work you actually take home. It is insane the amount of work you take home, or not receiving enough funding to actually take care of the students. So you have to use your own money. And if you don't use your own money, you only hurt them in the long term. It takes a huge toll on that. And so now she's actually I'm helping her learn how to code right now because now she wants to just be an engineer. It's easy. It's easier life. It's a stressful job for sure. It is easier life, financially speaking, of course, as well, and depending on the company work life balance. So that's amazing that you took that jump. But how nervous were you though? Like you said, you went to a coding boot camp after being a teacher. Going to coding boot camp, I'm assuming that costs quite a bit of money, meaning an investment, meaning it's a risk you might take and you might not receive an ROI. You don't know, wait, really, can people actually become an engineer with no engineering degree since you went to boot camp? What was your thought process with something like that?
There's definitely a lot of imposter syndrome involved in the whole thing, for sure. I did a ton of research before choosing the boot camp that I went to. I was in the Seattle area, and the one that I chose was based out of the Seattle area, run by a woman who is in like the cloud team for Xbox. And so she had a lot of local connections with local tech companies. And I saw that as like a wise place to make a connection with. Mm-hmm. So I hopped in there. Yeah, the whole process, definitely there was a lot of, it seems like everyone around me already knows everything. What am I doing here?
Welcome to my life.
I was glad I had a couple of great mentors along the way. One of them I'd actually known, so my dad mentored him, and now he has mentored me. And so he helped out a lot with like, well, there's a lot of people who go to coding boot camps. Here's what else you can do that'll help you to stand out. And encouraged me to get into things like writing blog posts and sharing out my thinking that way while I'm learning. And I think those things really helped to build confidence and also to help me make connections and work on starting out a career and seeing myself as a established professional.
Did you know, this is going to happen? I mean, you have someone that's mentoring you, trying to help you, right? Which a lot of people don't have.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't have that. They're depending on YouTubers, or whoever's on Google, Stack Overflow, tell them, is it possible? There are people that say, no, you need to go back to college. Or people are saying you don't need college, and etc. Like, did you know that was going to happen? Or, because of the mentorship you had behind that? Or you still like, maybe it won't work out?
Did I know that I would get a job?
Yeah, there you go. Yes.
Yeah. No. I was determined that I would at some point. I was determined to end up here somehow, some way or another. And it's like some combination of like a numbers game. Like, at some point, if you're applying to enough places and connecting with enough people, actually my first job landed with someone reaching out to me.
Wow.
Really?
So
at some point, it's like
zero experience.
A numbers thing.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I had like some freelance experience that I've been doing for a few years at that point, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Evan from Grouperoo reached out to me.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. Before we get to the Grouperoo part, I just want to emphasize on something though, right? How much has your life changed being in tech, right? How much has it changed compared to, when you were a teacher? Not that much, a lot. Like, please, I just really want to hear you emphasize that part.
Oh, it's been night and day. It's been night and day. It was a big struggle on a number of different fronts, right? Like financially a struggle, emotionally a struggle. There's a lot that I would take home in additional work, but also emotionally. Like I worked in a high poverty school. And so there were just a lot of things that I would take home from that. Like I wanted a job where, I could support my family. I wanted a job that was intellectually challenging, but not emotionally taxing, with like a good work-life balance. I love being creative and like problem solving and all of that, which I got to do in teaching and I get to do here. But overall, like the work-life balance, so much better. I get to come to work and work is about work. And then when I log off at the end of the day, it's all about being with my family. I can support. I'm going to cry, Sean. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. No.
I don't know why I keep calling you Sean.
It's okay. A lot of people do. I mean, I totally relate to this, right? And I shared this many times on my social media platforms, but like 6 years ago, I was living in my car, right? I remember where I would park my car in the Holiday Inn parking structure, because police or officers wouldn't check those vehicles because they assumed that I was staying in the hotel, right? So I had to park somewhere where no one would catch me sleeping in a car because it's legal in California. And and that's why I went to the tech though. Once I went to tech, my life completely changed upside down. And one of the reasons I joined tech is because my parents were struggling, and I knew, okay, there'll probably be a recession someday or something bad will happen and they'll be homeless unless I do something about it. So I went in tech, and now I support my parents, right? So my life and my family's life prior to tech is totally different. So I can totally understand where you're coming from. Imagining like what you were, how long ago were you a teacher? 2015, right? And then you were trying other things right after. You were working at a school district as a reading specialist. Principal, was that principal of a school? Like principal?
No,
Oh, okay.
like I ran my own business as a birth
Oh,
doula,
okay,
like a
okay.
business principal. Yeah.
And that wasn't that
No,
long ago.
no.
That
So
was
I
like
left
what?
teaching in 2018. So
Yeah, 2018. Okay, there you go. So that's not that long ago. I joined tech like 2016, 17. So yeah, it's kind of life changing. And thank you for sharing that though. And the reason I bring this up though is because I personally know, and I'm mentoring these women as well, women in tech, that they feel like it's harder for them because, yeah, I mean, it is in the world that we live in, right? Tech, a lot of people assume is just a world full of men, full of engineers and et cetera that are men. But you know what? Like a lot of in my career, when I'm a developed advocate now, when I worked as an engineer, a lot of the amazing women engineers that I worked with were better engineers than me. My entire career, every time I've worked with someone, there was an engineer that was not a man. 110% of the time, she was better than me, and I felt like I needed to work harder to catch up to her, right? And so, for you to do that, to move from one career, from teaching, right, trying to having your own business and moving in tech, do you have a message out there for anyone else as well that's trying to do this as well?
yeah, I mean, I think that what you shared about people feeling like they don't have the right background for this. Like all backgrounds are good backgrounds for people working in tech. If anything, it brings new perspective. And I think that people bringing new and different perspectives and ideas and ways of approaching problems, like we can only help each other grow when we do that. By challenging each other's ideas and bringing new perspectives, we only help each other grow. And so whatever you're bringing to the table is important and valuable. The technical skills, those can be learned, but those different perspectives and backgrounds that you bring, that's huge. Other people can't have those.
1,010,000%. I mean, like, how has it been for you then, right? I mean, okay, before we go to Airbyte, now you're going to coding boot camp, you're trying to find that first full-time job, and you join Grouparoo as your first full-time engineering job.
Yeah.
And your first engineering job that you have, that first company you work at, gets acquired by another company.
Yeah.
How is that experience for you? How is that? I've never been in a company that's been acquired. That'd be nice if that happened, right? I mean, a little bit more money. But how was that experience for you?
Oh, it was wild. So I knew a little bit about the startup world, just having grown up in it. Like I grew up in the 90s and 2000s startup bubble in tech. So I was really nervous actually to go anywhere near startups. Just based on that prior experience that I lived through. So I think I asked, equally as many.
Is that because your dad worked in tech?
Yeah. So my dad worked for startups, startups, okay. Was like hugely involved with that.
So you've seen it behind the scenes.
Totally. Yeah. They were started downstairs in our like home office.
Wow. Nice.
Yeah. A few of them. And so I was nervous to go anywhere near them. During my interview with Grouparoo, I asked probably an equal number of questions to what they asked me, just because I wanted to make sure that this was a space that I wanted to go into and something that I, believed in and saw it going somewhere. And, with startups, there's a handful of outcomes that you can have. Some of them are positive and some of them are negative. And getting acquired is like a very positive outcome that can come out of startups. And Airbyte is an exciting company to be a part of. I really believe in what we're building here.
Good answer.
Love the traction in the community. It's amazing what Airbyte has done, bringing in, the open source community. It's really cool to be a part of. And so joining Airbyte in particular has been a really exciting piece of that for sure.
That's awesome. I'm excited to hear that. And now that you're here at Airbyte, how has that experience been for you? One of the things that I personally try to sell when I talk about Airbyte is just the culture, right?
Hmm.
After being in tech for a while, I've been in tech. I've been in tech where the community was sorry, the culture wasn't the best. I worked in situations where even my managers weren't the best, but I have not experienced that. I mean, and I'm not just saying this. Like, I haven't experienced that here though. It's kind of amazing to go join a tech company where they say the culture is great and the culture is actually amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I feel like people must think that I'm like brainwashed when I talk about what it's like to work at Airbite because it's seriously amazing. Like the number one thing that I love about working here is the people. I work with brilliant people who are
Yeah.
also kind and welcoming. And then like at a company level, our values, you can see them is throughout. Like that open source kind of ethos is like present throughout the whole company, just in terms of like all
Mm-hmm.
all of our processes are out in the open. Our handbook is out in the open. Our founders share super openly about what's going on with the company, and I love that piece of it. Yeah, it's been cool also to be a part of an organization that's a little bit further on in the process, has a larger engineering team, has some more things going on there. Um, so that's been really cool as well to kind of hop in where things are really active and growing quickly and changing. And I was a little nervous, because Airbyte is in this huge period of growth that like that would mean that it was going to be stressful, or that I'd be expected to work around the clock. And I have just had such an enjoyable experience being with Airbyte. It's great.
I'm so happy to hear that. That makes me very happy to hear. I don't, I work, I create a lot of content. I go to conferences. I give talks at conferences. So I don't meet with a lot of people in the company. It's mainly content, marketing, meet with people in marketing, etc. Engineers here and there when I have questions, because I was a JavaScript developer for 5 years and only now I'm learning all things data engineering. So even I'm onboarding and ramping up myself.
Yeah.
So it makes me really happy to hear that. Right? In particular, you work in engineering. Right, you're a
Yeah.
front-end engineer here, working in software engineering department, and to hear that you feel that way and you work in engineering at a hyper growth startup makes me really happy to hear. And please note for everyone listening, I did not tell her to say that. you just said that from the bottom of your heart. So I'm happy to hear that. I'm very happy to hear that. So how has it been in you talked about Airbyte, but now just to let's put on that microscope and dive down even more into engineering, right? So you work here as a front-end engineer, etc. How has that been for you, right? Not just culture here and everybody, but how has that been for you, your experience working in the engineering department here? For people
Yeah.
who are interested in working here, people who are wondering, how is it working in engineering at Airbyte?
Yeah. So currently the front end team is a part of our platform team, platform being like all things that are kind of the brains behind Airbyte, like the scheduling and the application that you interact with and things like that. And so our front end team actually prior to today was 5 people. And now we're at 7 or 8. We just had someone come back from family leave. And we also had 2 new folks joining. Someone came over from another team and 1 new hire. So the team is growing. Yeah. So, I mean, the front end team, I think the projects that we're working on right now are really pretty amazing. Like we're collaborating with the platform team and with the cloud team on bringing a few different things forward with detecting changes in user schemas and exposing the cloud API and supporting multi-region cloud. So I like being able to interact with different teams, getting to build those pieces up. And getting to own some of those projects. One thing that I also think speaks to like our team culture is that we have a dedicated roadmap item this quarter to address some of the areas that we have some technical debt. And I think that that's really cool that while we're building all these exciting new features and moving forward, there's still that focus on tackling technical debt and addressing developer experience and things like that. We actually do the full engineering team does a quarterly developer experience survey. And then that survey turns into actual action items that are acted on so that, they want our engineering team happy.
Well, isn't that amazing though? Because when you work at a larger company, a larger corporation, and I don't think you've worked at a larger company yet in regards to tech, but making changes and trying to change the direction of what the engineering team needs to do almost immediately doesn't happen at a large company. But one of the best things about working in a startup is, number one, direct immediate impact. You learn, it's fast paced, so you'll learn a lot of things quickly. And if there are changes that need to be made, it's done immediately, right? And so I think that's amazing to hear. Last but not least, I don't want to keep this too long. I usually ask everyone this at the end of the interview. You've been here a few months, so I won't ask this yet. Right? I'll be a little nicer to you. You've been here 5 months. I'll be nicer to you.
Okay.
So what are you excited about? I know this is a tough question. Someone asked me this at a conference, and that caught me off guard. But what are you looking forward to the next? You're 5 months in, 6 months in. What are you looking forward to 5 months from now, or a year from now here at Airbyte?
I'm just really excited to see how Airbyte is growing. I think the community is amazing to see the community growth and how we're incorporating that into our product as well with a lot of, the connector extensibility work that's happening. So I'm excited to see where that's going. I think that we've got, multi-cloud and multi-region that we're rolling out that I think is going to be huge and unlocking a more global space for us. So I'm looking forward to some of that expansion into like the European market and pieces of that as well. And I think that Airbyte's in a really interesting position right now where a lot of companies are scaling back and limiting things, and we're making strategic choices, but we're still in a really solid space to keep moving forward. And so I'm excited to see kind of what that looks like for us in the industry.
Awesome. Yeah. When I look at our roadmap as a company and the goals that we have for the next couple of quarters, it is exciting to see where we're going, especially because when I travel to conferences and speak to potential customers or current customers, clients, etc., they ask me all of these questions that I don't have answers to because we haven't, created what we needed. For example, I think a lot of people are actually asking about reverse ETL or custom connectors in the cloud and things like that, that we're working on, which I'm really excited for. So this is awesome. Okay. Any last words you want to share with the world of internet, for the internet out there, for anyone who's watching this right now, or anyone who's maybe interested in joining Airbyte?
Yeah, I would say Airbyte's a great organization to be a part of. The culture on the engineering team is amazing. I personally love that it's, a startup. And so I get to have my hand in kind of different projects and pieces that I might not get the opportunity to be a part of at a larger company. There's definitely like projects that I've helped lead that I wouldn't have been allowed anywhere near at, a huge corporation.
Would have been allowed. I love those words.
Totally. So I think that, joining a startup, I highly recommend. And in talking with friends who are in the startup sphere, like Airbyte is just pretty all around amazing. Our engineering team is great. And one of the things that's neat about Airbyte is that we really focus on being like an engineering led company. Like engineering is kind of the center and the core of what drives us right now. And I think that shows at various layers within our company for sure.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing those kind of words. What's with that face? You did really well. Oh, you are so funny. I don't know if you remember talking to me in person in San Francisco at launch week, but you were so fun to talk to. So, and again, you were also fun to talk to here on this interview. You made it really fun, to be honest. So I really appreciate being on here. So anyway, we'll end the show here. For everyone who's watching right now, I appreciate it. And thank you for watching. Please like this video if you can, subscribe if you haven't, and we'll see you in the next episode.